From Anshe Sfard Bethel Emeth Congregation, it's time to take 10 minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein.
Welcome to our discussion of Parshat Ki Tetze, marriage advice. If we look in Parshat Ki Tetze, we notice a lot of discussion about marriage. Ki yikach ish isha. Over and again, it talks about scenarios where a man takes a woman, a man marries a woman. There is one such verse where it says, Ki yikach isha uvayla usneah. If a man takes a woman and he comes to her and he hates her. So Rashi says, well, what's this story? It's the story of the one who is going to make false claims, accusations against this bride. And Rashi says, one sin leads to the other. Avera goreret avera. One sin leads to the other. Avara lo tisna. He violated the notion of thou shalt not hate thine brother, that you should not hate your brother in your heart. Sofo bali de lashon hara. Then because of that sin, the sin of hatred, you will then come to another sin, the sin of lashon hara, of blasphemous speech against another Jew. This Rashi is intriguing. It's saying that a man who is with a wife and he hates her, he doesn't like her, this itself is a sin. The Torah says, thou shalt not despise your friend, your brother in your heart. A person who's married to someone and does not like them, that is a violation of the Torah itself. As a matter of fact, the Gemara in Kiddushin says that a person should never marry someone whom they'll come to hate, because after all, the Torah says you should love your neighbor as yourself. The command to love your neighbor as yourself, ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, is a command to not put yourself in a situation in which you would ever be with a spouse, God forbid, that you would not love. So on the contrary, when a person is married to a woman, when a man is married to a woman is married to a man, it's an obligation to make sure that there is love, that one fulfills the obligation of loving your neighbor, and one does not violate the prohibition of hating, God forbid, one's neighbor. The question is, how do we go about having harmonious relationship? And I have, over the years, developed a system of 5 pieces of advice I'd like to share with you. Number 1, sometimes we get into disagreements, that's natural. But we have to watch our tongue and guard our tongue, guard your tongue from evil, to never characterize the other person in one way or the other. And you should never say, you always blank, fill in the blank. You always are late. You always are a slob. You always are a mess. You always forget. Whenever we characterize the person in that way, we have made a declaration of our evaluation of that person. And just as at this season of the year, we don't want to be judged that way by God. We don't want God to say, you're wicked. You're a sinner. We want God to say, well, in this particular case, perhaps you didn't do the best thing, but there were other situations in which you were a good man. So too, we should never characterize our spouse in a negative vein. Similarly, we shouldn't look too carefully at the other person's flaws. Sure, after a while, you become an expert in the other person. You're the most knowledgeable person on earth about your spouse. And you could find surely many different flaws. But our job is to do again what we would want God to do with us on Yom Kippur. We want God to turn to us and say, well, sure, this person has many flaws, but after all, they're so good in so many ways. So too, we need to look at our spouses, l'chaf zechut, we need to judge them favorably and to say, well, there may be certain flaws, but we don't look at that because that could lead down the wrong path toward hatred, not love. And therefore, we only look, we always want to look at the good of Jerusalem, of Israel, of our fellow human being, our fellow Jew. And we want to fulfill what it says in Rosh Hashanah in the Talmud, Kol ma'avir al midotav, ma'avirin lo al kol psha'av. Anyone who waives what they're entitled to, who says to themselves, well, I could get angry about this, I could make a big fuss about this, but I'm not going to. Then God will take the same approach and say, we can make a big deal about the list of sins the person did this year, but we're not going to do that. We're going to pass over all their sins And that's what we do for our spouses. That's what we do for someone we love. We overlook their shortcomings. Then we need to remember that whatever sacrifices we are making for our spouse, whatever, if in some way we say, you know what, I'm giving so much up to be in this relationship. Guess what? The other person also gives up to be in this relationship. If you look at the original Adam and Eve, as Rabbi Soloveitchik points out, Adam gave up Tzela, he gave up a side of himself. And the woman, she is an Ezer Negdo, the idea that she's always there for her husband to help the husband. This too is great sacrifice. Marriage is a sacrificial community, says Rabbi Soloveitchik. You're always sacrificing. Don't think you're the one who's sacrificing. Your spouse is equally sacrificing for you. Number 4, hold your words. There are opportunities we have sometimes to be so hurtful. The Talmud says that a woman, her tears are right there, waiting to come out. Don't activate those tears to come out. We have to hold our words. The Gemara Megillah, the Talmud says, Mila besela, mishtoka betrain. A word is maybe worth $1, but silence, holding back our words, that's worth $2. Or the Talmud in Chulin says, Ein haolam mitkayem el b'shvil mi shebolem an atzmo b'shat meriva. At the time of a fight, at the time of tension with husband and wife, the whole world stands on our ability to be able to be bolem, to swallow whatever hurt we have, whatever anger we have, to swallow it. Don't say it. If we have a problem with the behavior of the other person, rather than throwing venom, throwing anger, throwing disappointment, we can talk about our own feelings. You know what? When you do that, it makes me fill in the blank. It hurts me. When you do that, it makes me feel sad. Don't throw anger. When you throw anger, there's a verse in Mishlei 27, Kamayim apanim lapanim, kein lev hadam la'adam. If you reflect feelings back, the feelings reflect back to you. If you reflect anger, anger will reflect back. If you reflect resentment, if you reflect negativity, God forbid hatred, the hatred comes back. You have to try to reflect positivity. If there is a problem and we want to discuss it, describe it in terms of your own hurt feelings, not what they did to you. If you attack, they will attack back. It's a mirror image. If you say you're hurt, hopefully the person will apologize to you. You should always apologize to each other. Finally, we have to remember what brought us together. The Torah talks about the first year of marriage, that husband and wife should spend as much time as possible that first year together. Why is that? Why should the husband not run off on business trips the first year? Because, as the Sefer HaChinuch points out, we want the husband and wife with the husband particularly to feel so close to this person. He should feel so comfortable with her. He should feel that there's no one else he feels so comfortable with. He should have an image in his brain of his wife, only his wife, and everything about her. And that should be his basic home base for his whole life. And this is what can bring us back together. Try to remember, what was it that brought you together? Was it something you like to share together? Was it looking at each other in a certain way? These things can bring us back together as well. These are some pieces of advice I've called over the years, but there's so much more. Mitzvah is to love your neighbor as yourself. Whom can you ever fulfill this mitzvah with in the greatest sense? Really, it's our spouses, the ones we know best. We can truly love them as ourselves, as we know ourselves and we forgive ourselves. We can know our spouses and forgive them and love them despite all this great information and knowledge that we have about them. Hopefully, this advice and others, we can have shalom bayit, we can have indeed peace in our homes. We can know that there's peace in our homes. Peace in our homes hopefully will bring peace of mind to ourselves, tranquility to our families, and hopefully, have shalom banayich, with peace will come one day the redemption of the world. Thank you for joining us here at the Anshe Sfard Beth Elamith congregation here in Memphis, Tennessee, for a discussion of marriage. Join us each week for a discussion of the Parsha and our how-to videos as well. Thanks to Jason Lefkowitz for technical support each week, and thank you for joining us.
This has been 10 Minutes for Torah with Rabbi Joel Finkelstein. To learn more, visit ASBEE.org.